So it's been about 3 years since Wahoo introduced the Element cycling computer. It's been 2 years since we saw the Element Bolt. The Mini came not too soon after that. And today, Wahoo add to their lineup with the Element Roam cycling GPS. As you saw in the intro there, I've been out riding the unit for a couple of weeks now, getting my head around the ins and outs of the unit. So today, let's have a look at what this is all about. Given the Element and the Bolt have been out for a while, I'll assume you may be familiar with those two units. There's a lot of similarities with the Roam. If not, you'll be up to speed in just a few moments as I cover my first list for today, the similarities. First up, the interface is buttons. It is not a touchscreen interface. The pairing process is still a QR code pairing process. I think it's the only QR code I ever use, but it does work quite well. The simplified setup is with the revamped Element companion app on iOS and Android. The proximity device pairing is the same as we've known it, so you just hit pairing mode on your head unit, wake your device up, and it will scan around and present you a list of devices to pair. Screen customization is done via the companion app. People love this. It's just a few seconds to set up each screen in different fields that you want. The perfect view zoom allows the side button to zoom in and zoom out in real time as you're riding along to present more information on the screen or less. There's up to 11 fields on this screen on the Roam. There's 2 rows of LEDs on this unit across the top and down the side for things like heart rate, speed, power, and alerts. The internet live tracking is also a feature. If you have a phone in your back pocket and are connected, there is Strava live segments. There's calls and text notifications, and they do come through in color on the Roam. It is a color screen. There's third-party activity uploads to Strava, RideWithGPS, TrainingPeaks, and other sync partners. Workouts can be loaded onto the unit or synced down from TrainingPeaks or other training partners to get workouts done indoors or out with the indoor training control. The electronic group set support is there with Di2, ETAP, EPS, K-Force Wii. Pioneer Power Meter pedal monitor display is there and supported, as we saw released over in Reno last year at Interbike. The USB charge port is on the back here, not on the underside, as was the case with the Element. And there is a little locking bolt nut on there. If you need to lock the head unit to your bike, put the bolt in there and it's going nowhere. And finally, the menu navigation is exactly the same as the Element and Element Bolt. So if you're familiar with those, you'll be able to navigate yourself around these, no problems at all. Okay, now on to what you really want to know. What's new with the Element Roam? First of all, it's bigger than the Bolt. It has a better battery life than the Bolt, same battery life as the Element, so 17 hours. It has a colored screen, or it has colors on the screen. I wouldn't call it a full color screen, but there are colors there. It's Gorilla Glass on the front. The screen size, as mentioned, 68.6 millimeters, the same as the Element. The Bolt only had a 55.6 mil screen, so you can display 11 fields as opposed to the 9 on this one. And the screen isn't recessed on the Roam like it is on the Bolt and the Element. So the information is presented almost on the surface, which is really handy for different viewing angles and out on the road with the anti-glare screen on the thing. There's also an ambient light sensor, so it can detect night and day and adjust the display settings accordingly. And the biggest change, and probably the reason for the name Roam, is in the mapping and the details provided in the mapping on this unit. There are street names, street type, and a ton more information to give you quality routes. Other additions are save location, so you can save home, work, coffee shop, or your current location wherever you are and use that to navigate to. The mountain bike trails are easy to identify on screen. They're in blue, as you can see here out in the Creswick Forest. If I zoom in here, you can see the main road that I'm on, and the blue roads indicate some mountain bike or gravel trails. There is an option to show the elevation profile on the map page, which gives you more information as you ride along. And there's 2 additional zoom levels on the Roam, down to 50 meters and 20 meters. So if you're outside on the gravel trails and they're close by, you'll be able to see which one to take. My initial impressions of the Roam when I first unboxed it a few weeks ago, well, the first thing I did, I turned it on and started pressing the it's no touch screen, but I got over that pretty quick because the navigation was very familiar, same as the other units I've had in the past. The color screen, not essential, but handy to have. I think it's only a 16 or 32 color screen palette. It wouldn't be much more than that. It's definitely not something you'll be taking photos with and displaying them on the screen, but it's enough to see roads, road type, the trails in blue as you saw before, and the lakes and major roads in yellow. So that's pretty cool. The other information in different colors, I can give or take it, but it's a handy addition. The matte screen did impress me straight away. As soon as turning that on, there was no shine, there was no reflection, and in the first few kilometers of the ride going between sun and shade, you can still read the screen, no problems at all. And the ambient light sensor seemed to do the job. Even with the larger screen size on the Roam, there's still quite a large bezel edge around the whole unit, something we've seen phone manufacturers move away from as they push their screens all the way out to take up maximum real estate, maybe due to having a larger battery and a smaller screen gives better battery life or something for those, but something I'd like to see pushed out to the edge, given that that screen is nice and visible, colors, and right there in your face. Would have liked to see this be full screen. Aside from the physical differences of the unit, screen size, color, battery life, etc., it's the navigation and the maps on the unit which gives it a lot more intelligence than the previous units for routes and navigation. So that's what a lot of my time in the last 3 weeks has been spent on. Working out how this thing works, how it routes, how it reroutes. It's time to go down the rabbit hole. So an overview of GPS navigation, and this is different to GPS tracking. Tracking is easy, it just takes one data point of where you are, records that, you move, and it records a new data point. From there, it knows your track of where you've been, you can tell speed, time of day, etc. That's an easy thing. Some GPS units don't even have maps, they just get your final track and then overlay that to services such as Strava to see where you've gone. Now, GPS navigation, on the other hand, can be and is a little tricky because it's where you currently are and it's where you want to go or the path you want to go in the future. Predicting the future can be a little difficult. I have to split this into two different types of navigation. So you have destination-based, where you say, I'm at A, I want to go to B, and that's all the information you give it, and the unit decides to take you there whichever path it knows. And then there's path, route, or journey-based, where you tell it the exact path that you want to take, and you just want its assistance to tell you when to turn the corner. In a car, for example, the navigation is typically destination-based. You sit in a car, you punch in the address that you want to go to, such as the airport, and you effectively let the unit decide. Well, you do let the unit decide to take you there on the path that it knows. It's based on the intelligence that it has on hand. In cars, your GPS maps may not be updated, so it might not take you the most optimal route, but it takes you the most optimal route that it knows. If you were to pull out your phone and use Waze, Google Maps, Apple Maps, something like that, it can pull in intelligence from outside, such as road conditions, traffic alerts, and new roads that have been built, and then give you a path based on its information. Again, it's kind of hands off the wheel. You ask it to take you there, you just care about getting there. Typically in a car, you don't tell it the exact path you want to take, so you're not uploading pathways to it. Probably points of interest, maybe, but even then, it's A to B, B to C, and you don't really care how you get there. It's destination-based. So that's the destination-based routing. In sporting activities, it's typically route, path, or journey-based. You tell it exactly the path that you want to take, and whichever device you're asking, it has to apply the smarts that it knows to get you along that path to your destination. A lot of the time, the destination is your starting point. So with that, if you were to upload, say, a GPX or a TCX file, a GPS mapping file to a Garmin unit, such as a 520, 820, 1030, it can take a few minutes for it to grab that map, overlay it with the maps that it has, and give you a routing path. Now, in the past, or with these other units, the Element and Element Bolt, if you were to upload a basic GPS map, it just gives you a breadcrumb overlay. If the file you upload to the Element or Element Bolt has those turn-by-turn cues, it will display those cues along the way. Okay, that's my scattered overview of GPS navigation and the two different types, destination-based or route or path-based, and the quality of the route that you get back out, or the turn-by-turn information, all depends on the intelligence of the unit that you ask. So for example, the in-car nav with the older maps, probably not that great. Waze, Apple Maps, Google Maps, absolutely brilliant. They can draw in information online. And when you ask a head unit, such as the Roam, where to go, it's the intelligence of the maps that gives you back quality information, and that's where it's got the edge over the other two Wahoo units. Jumping over to the Element Roam routing options on unit, and this will change, so there's a big asterisk here. This is as it stands today. There will be a few updates coming out very soon. I'll discuss those later on, but as it stands today, we have retrace, ride, back to start, take me to, and predefined routes, plus rerouting. There's two options of rerouting. So first of all, retrace ride will just turn you in a U-turn and take you back to where you came from, the same path. You're telling it which path to choose, and because of that, you don't get turn-by-turn navigation today, but you will get elevation profile provided. Back to start, you just tell the unit to take me back to start the best way it knows how. You hand over the reins to it, and it can then give you turn-by-turn nav. You don't get elevation profile, and the preferred route is based on the profile that you've chosen on the unit. You can choose road, cross, hybrid, or mountain bike preferred paths. Take me to allows you to choose a point of interest on the map. With the head unit, you scroll around and pick a point. Again, you're handing the reins over to it to do a destination-based route, so it will give you turn-by-turn. You don't get elevation profile today. Route type is based on your profile that you've chosen, and there's a maximum planned distance on the head unit of around 110 kilometers. Or else if you plan too far out, it will give you a distance too far. You can then also route to your pre-configured places such as home, work, or any other locations you've saved on the unit. Again, that's destination based. You're allowing the unit to guide you of how to get there. Predefined routes, probably the most popular use of routing on head units is where you grab a file or you sync from another partner site such as Strava or RideWithGPS. Turn-by-turn navigation is a yes, no, maybe, depending on if the information is provided at this point in time in that route file. Elevation profile is provided if it's within that file. The roam can also route you to the start of a ride. If you've selected a route that you're nowhere near, it can then do a turn-by-turn nav to get you to the start line. The roam does do rerouting on the fly, which is really handy, but it does it in two different ways, depending on if you're a destination-based route or you're a path-based route. If you've got a set path, it will then beep and say you're off route, but it will also guide you with blue chevrons back onto the path, and away you go. You're back onto your normal path or onto your journey. You don't give turn by turn, but just a visual blue chevron reference to get back on path. If you're routing to a destination where you've asked the unit to choose the pathway, it will then reroute on the fly as you expect, and as we see in the car. If you take a wrong turn, it can then reroute you around the back street. With that, you do get turn by turn, and it'll get you to where you're going. Okay, all good and well on paper. Let's see this in action on the head unit out here in Creswick on my ride. So zooming into the head unit, we can see I've done about 30 kilometers from home in Ballarat out to Creswick, and you can see the profile that I've ridden there in black along the bottom. Okay, first up, we will have a look at retrace ride and what it looks like on the head unit. So I've selected retrace ride, which will take me back the same path that I came. Just having a small think about that. And there we go, it's now an option. You can see here, no turn-by-turn nav. I do have a distance to go, but no direction as such. You will just follow the chevrons like a breadcrumb trail. Jumping over here to have a look at the elevation profile, and you can see that is supplied because it does know where I've come from. So elevation profile is supplied. Okay, that's the first option, which is retrace route, which effectively will double the kilometers that I've done. Okay, we hit end on that one. We jump over to route to start. Now this is a destination-based route where we give the unit the reins to tell us the best way it thinks it should go. Nice and quick, down the main road there, back into town from where I started near the lake. With that, we get turn-by-turn nav. You can see the cues auto-generated from the head unit here. Now, it doesn't require a phone to be connected. It will make this decision on itself. And no elevation profile, though, for the upcoming suggested route that it's chosen. Next up is the Take Me To location. And this is pretty interesting how they've solved this one without a touchscreen. So we choose location on the map, and we use the up-down arrows to navigate where we want to go. And we can click the middle button to zoom in closer. So if you're, close enough or thereabouts of where you need to go, you can zoom in, hit select, and again, another destination-based route where it chooses the pathway itself. So we get turn-by-turn nav, but unfortunately no elevation shown today. Elevation, we believe, is coming. Pulling out your phone and entering the companion app for navigation options gives you a few more tricks up your sleeve. You can do an address, a specific address for destination, take me to, or you can do point of interest on the map. You will get turn-by-turn navigation because you're asking it to just take you there, not giving it the route. You don't get elevation profile today. The route type, I believe, is road if you do that on the companion app. I don't see any profile there to select mountain or trail, etc. There's also unlimited distance on that. I've routed from Melbourne to Perth and it worked okay. You can create from history. You can do a predefined route that you've done before. You won't get turn-by-turn today on that, but you will get elevation profile. There's sync from web, as we know from Strava, RideWithGPS, etc. Stay tuned on these Strava routes with turn-by-turn. We're told it's coming. Fingers crossed, I'll cover it here as soon as it's out. They do have the maps in there, so it's just a matter of lining things up and making it all work. There's also file imports, which you may be familiar with. You can email yourself a GPX or a TCX or a FIT file. There's no turn-by-turn navigation unless the cues are provided on that. Again, as above, stay tuned. That should be coming, given the intelligence is now in the mapping system on the roam. You will get elevation profile on that. Retrace ride and back to start, same as before. So there's an overview of the unit and the feature sets with a bit of a deep dive into the navigation as it stands today. Do note that will change, so stay tuned to this channel as I cover those as they roll out. So my summary impressions after a few weeks of use. The data recorded from the unit was fine, so heart rate, power, cadence, Di2 gear display, no problems at all. It recorded the rides, flawless, so it was reliable and it worked. The elevation data tracked well with the edge units that I had on the bike, so no problems there. The non-recessed screen and the matte non-shine finish, I love that. That was probably, I like the color screen, but I do like the clarity and the fact that it's just there on the surface. That was really, really handy. And again, you're not looking through a window at the data. It looked nice and clean on the front of the bike. As I mentioned, the color screen was neat, not essential. It was handy just to know where you are. It was easy to see at a glance on the screen, especially the lake is how I navigate myself around here. It's a big blue dot on the middle of the screen, so that was handy on maps. The navigation did work well, but it was more about getting my head around what combinations worked and what didn't, and I've even come up with a spreadsheet to remind myself of what works and what doesn't, but what's going to change in the future. So that was a little complex, but when it did work, it was fine, provided exactly what I needed. And by the way, the little Garmin Wahoo converter adapter quarter turn mount came in very, very handy. I will link below to that. If you're limited or locked into Garmin mounts on an Aero mount or something like that, you can get the adapter for these head units. Okay, onto some pain points with the Element Roam, because it's not all happy days. Now this is my own list, I'm sure everyone has their own. First up, no ANT+ radar support, or as people call it, Varia radar support. But ANT+ radar is an open standard or an open profile that hasn't been implemented yet. No ANT+ light network support, so no support for intelligent lights back and front. No ANT+ cycling dynamics. Now there's Pioneer monitor mode or pedal monitor mode, which is supported, which is okay, but I'd like to see that more open and support the Vector 3 pedals. The no turn-by-turn from Strava route, that would have been a killer feature on launch. We're told coming soon, so stay tuned for that. And as the same with GPX and TCX imports. When you import those, I'd love to see it just bang those over top of the maps that it does know about the roads and the turns and then provide you turn by turn. Again, we're told coming soon on that. And another nitpick for me, the Di2 group set support is good, but I can't select my battery level as a field. I've got to go to the main menu, select the Di2 component and then check the battery level from there. I can do it and it will warn me if I'm low, but I'd love to have just that screen. All of the above are, I'm told, coming soon. So who is the Element Roam for? Is it worth upgrading? Well, let's have a chat about that. First of all, something interesting happened when the Bolt first came out. We started seeing a lot more people buy Elements. Not over the Bolt, but this became a lot more popular than in the previous 12 months it was out. So both of them started to rise up. People were choosing the Element over the Bolt, some people, due to the better battery life and the bigger screen. The Roam comes along and sort of cuts the lunch of both of these. It's nicely shaped like the Bolt, it's a better shape, it's not so 2017. It has a better battery life, so it has the Element battery life and the Element screen. So best of both worlds in this. If you're a never again Garmin person, sure, that's an option. And if I was to look at all three units today, and if I had to run out of the Llama Lab and grab a Wahoo head unit, it'd be the Roam that I choose. So if the Bolt is too small and the Element is too 2017, the Roam's probably for you then. If you're a current user of these and you don't use navigation, then probably sit tight because Wahoo are still releasing updates for both of the previous model units. Well, they're still current generation, they haven't sunset them yet, but they're still releasing updates to this day for firmware updates and things like that. But it is the color screen, the higher quality screen, and the enhanced mapping intelligence that does give this the leg up. Over the last 2 weeks, I've asked a lot of people about what head units they have, what they put importance on, and why they're sticking with what they've got. Now, the list came out with ease of use and setup, reliability, good battery life, and something that syncs activities up to Strava or TrainingPeaks after the ride. Wahoo do nail all those core features and offer just enough additional features to be competitive in this market with Garmin and punching on in the ring. And let's be honest, there's a few head units out there that can't even get tickets to the show. So on to pricing. Now at $379 US for the Roam, this does go head to head directly with the Garmin Edge 830. In the US, it's $20 cheaper because the Edge 830 in the US is $399. Here in Australia, both $599, both competitive, and there are punches being thrown in regard to features and the price war. Okay, wrapping it up for today, there we are. Round one with the Element Roam. What it's all about, similar features, additional features, and a bit of a deep dive into the navigation as it stands today. That will be changing as we've been told, so stay tuned, hit subscribe, and I'll be covering all the new updates as they roll out. Thanks for watching.